any advantages or disadvantages as you think about trade-offs and ideas that you can share specific to retrofitting an existing data center versus building a net new data center? I remember the days when we had a data center in California for one of the companies I was working for, and we decided to move our entire data center and build brand new data centers in Arizona and not be in California, which was a pretty heavy lift and intense operation. But in the net sequence of things, it landed up being quite economical and the right decision for the company. So any best practices that you would consider in the planning as it associates with water, but mainly as a lot of data centers are trying to keep up demand and think of expansion on their existing ones versus building new data centers?
Yeah. Yeah, I think before we go into the details of that, it's useful to sort of disambiguate the types of data centers, right? So you have co-location-based data centers,
Right.
which are basically third-party data center operators that lease real estate space
Mhm.
and networking equipment and power, and you can just bring in your compute equipment and operate your data center, right? So co-location-based data centers are about 25% of the North American market. Then you have hyperscalers like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, the big players. And that's another 20 to 25% of the data center space. And surprisingly, at least surprisingly for me, when I was doing the research, the vast majority of data centers in North America are basically on-prem data centers. So close to 60% of the data centers are on-prem, right? And when you think about the distribution that way, the trade-offs for each one of these data centers is going to be different. So let's take co-location-based data centers as an example, right? So let's say that you are a co-location-based data center operator. You want to add AI to your existing compute infra. Now, it seems very logical from that perspective to sort of gravitate towards hybrid cooling rather than invest in liquid cooling, because the cost of creating something from scratch is not justified, especially if you've not fully realized profits from your existing capex on conventional compute.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the trade-off is completely different for players with deep pockets that will own GPUs for a very long time, like the Googles and the Amazons and the Microsoft. So for them, that extra performance and efficiency when you use liquid cooling, closed loop liquid cooling, it's worth the cost, right? And so creating everything from scratch, it seems to be a no-brainer for that category of data center operator. But there's evidence that suggests, based on the work that we have done, that even these companies are adopting hybrid cooling systems and water-based cooling simply because it's so cheap. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money upfront, right? I think regardless of what choice you end up making, from our perspective, the broader trend to keep in mind is that as AI data center growth explodes, the proportion of conventional cooling is set to go down, and the proportions of both liquid and hybrid cooling continue to increase, right? And that really has enormous implications for both data center operators and the utilities that work with these data center operators to treat their discharge. And of course, for the communities in which these data centers operate.